morning, and welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam. And so begins the busiest week of the beginning of the year, between the Academy Award nominations coming out today. I think they're out now, actually. I haven't read them yet. It's 9:15 almost in the morning, and I haven't read the Academy Award nominations yet. I have to go to work. But I'll read them. I'll do an episode probably tomorrow with my predictions. I think I have it on schedule for tomorrow. Tomorrow morning we have a Sundance movie that I will be seeing. Sometimes I Think About Dying, the new Daisy Ridley feature. That will be tomorrow morning. I'm probably going to get a Sundance shirt too, because even though I'm attending it virtually, I am still attending the festival, and that's going to be my new thing. Get a t-shirt from every festival I go to. Anyway, we are here to talk about... Well, before we talk about The Last of Us, Episode 2, I want to talk about this fucked up... The Razzies. The Razzies have, a checkered history. I think The Shining won Worst Picture in 1980. And it's like, they had that category, Worst Performance by Bruce Willis in a movie, and then it came out that he had aphasia, and it's like, oh shit, we look dumb. And it's like, at the end of the day, who cares? Like, all of that. But, like, there are a few things that really stuck in my craw a little bit, about this year's nominations. First and foremost, nominating the girl from, Firestarter for Worst Actress, that's just not right. I'm sorry. Where did that decision-making process come from? Where it's like, okay, well, we're going to nominate her for Worst Actress because she's 12 years old. Like, what the fuck? That is colossally fucked up that you nominated her in that category. That's number one. Number two, nominating Daniel Espinosa for Worst Director for... for Morbius. Now, Morbius is a shitty movie, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Morbius is a shitty movie. But Morbius, is just... It is the product of studio intervention. I said it when I saw the movie. When you watch this movie, you can see that there are too many hands in the pot. There are too many people trying to change what's happening in the movie, and you end up with this jumbled mishmash of nonsense that is kind of just not great. Because you can tell there are like 3 or 4 different cuts of the movie that are getting spliced together intermittently. Characters have different robotic limbs that they have in one scene and don't have in another. There are characters, like the whole thing with him going to the, like, he can't go back to the lab, and then he goes to the, he goes and takes the place where they're making counterfeit money and takes their stuff because you can't go back to the lab, and then they go back to the lab anyway, but it's like, but the police are watching this place, so why? Like, you can tell by watching the movie that this is not entirely his fault. Sure, there are things that are his fault in the movie, but to say he's the worst director, and then for The Contractor, I don't even know who directed The Contractor, with Chris Pine and Kiefer Sutherland, for that movie to not get nominated, where there are just basic issues with cinematography that are, like fundamental misunderstandings of the principles of cinematography in that movie. It just boggles the mind. It just, they want attention. That's what it is. They want attention, and I'm giving it to them, so they succeeded. Anyway, so the Razzies, their nominations are out, and the Academy Award nominations, I believe, are out. So when I do my weekly streaming recap for Smithtown Chronicle, I will know if Women Talking got nominated for Best Picture. I'll have to look that up before I do that. Now, would probably help ticket sales. My screening on Saturday is probably going to be crowded as fuck. Anyway, we covered all of that. The Last of Us, Episode 2. It wasn't until someone pointed it out to me that I realized that Tess was being played by Anna Torov, and I was like, oh shit, she was on Fringe. And now that I know that, it's a cool little thing to know. What was the other thing? So I really liked this episode. I like the design of the clickers. I like like that. Like, this is something that feels a lot like this episode felt a lot like a video game, in so much as like they're going around and then like Ellie's going around and fucking around, like, because you're not playing as Ellie, you're playing as Joel when you play the game. Ellie's going around, and again, I'm gonna full disclosure, I have not played past episode 1 in the game. I've gotten as far as episode 1. I think. Yeah, I got out of the city into the wider city. Like, I out of the little, starting area into the wider city. With Ellie. And that was also almost a decade ago. So, looking at this, I'm like, wow, like, this is really cool. Like, the design of the world, the whole, like, that whole intro thing with the origin of the virus. I really like that they're not doing the Walking Dead route and leaving that ambiguous. I love the exposition about how the world got to this state, because that's just as important as anything else happening in the show. Because when we talk about environmental storytelling, which is something I've been hearing a lot talking about with The Last of Us, and you get it a lot with video games, it's this idea that they're not going to tell you the story directly, you're going to look around and figure things out. I think that works in a video game because you get to interact, you get to control what you interact with. So, like, you can go around and you can find a business card from Murdoch and Nelson in Spider-Man and be like, oh shit, Daredevil's in here. You can go find the Sanctum Sanctorum and be like, oh, there's a Doctor Strange in this world, or see the Avengers Tower, and the Avengers are off-world doing God knows what at the time that, the first Spider-Man game happens. Or in this, like, at one point, you can, you go through Ellie's bag in the game, from what I've read, and you find more information about Ellie, and it's that kind of thing, where it's like, you look at it that way. And environmental storytelling can happen in movies, but I think part of the problem is, like, I was watching I'm watching the show, and, like, there's this building that's half collapsed onto another building, and everything's all destroyed and everything, and I'm like, how the fuck did a zombie apocalypse, a zombie apocalypse cause this? And for them to kind of lay it out in that opening where it's like, oh, so this thing, the cordyceps, I guess it's still a fungus, because that's the thing, is that it's just not spores. It's just it's a fungus that can transfer person to person through a bite, and like that idea. It's like this virus has never survived in humans before, and there are 14 people who are alive now who could have the virus, and they're on the run in Indonesia. And they ask the woman, and it's like, what do we do with this? If this is going on, how do we handle this? And she says, you have to bomb the fucking city. Like, you can't just take me home so I can be with my family and just bomb this fucking city. And it's just like, holy shit. Like, that level of, like, seriousness to it is just so great. And then to see it later, and she's the city destroyed, it's like, oh, and then they listened to her too, and they did that because if you look at, like, and then this is where the bombs fell, and when Ellie asked that, it's just like, oh shit, they listened to her and they did what she said to do. It's like, that's fucked up. It's such a well constructed world, and I think that, like I said, they could do that through environmental storytelling in the game, but you have to be more explicit in a TV show, because a TV show, you're gonna have a lot going on, and you're not choosing to go down these little alleys to tell you more of the story in the same way that you are in a video game. And I think they're handling it very well. And I think that's really the strength of this show. And I think that's one of the things that comes from taking a show that has a strong narrative, or again, that has a strong narrative thread to begin with, and then expanding that out to be a TV show. If you have a TV show with a strong narrative thread to begin with, you have more room to look at, like, okay, so what are the other things we need to do without just developing the story? Because, like, with something like Sonic, they do a great job with Sonic, don't get me wrong. I loved Sonic the Hedgehog. I love Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Look, seeing Sonic go supersonic and then fight a giant Eggman robot, that's all I've ever wanted in life out of a movie. And then not only that, but also, like, where it does the post into All the President's Men, or what was the into A New Hope with the intro of Shadow at the end. It's great, but you also, the first Sonic game has a very straightforward story because the game came out in 1992 or 1993, and you can't exactly expect it to be a particularly deep story. It's get from one level to the other without dying, collect the Chaos Emeralds, beat the fuck out of the giant Eggman guy. Like, so building a story around that is something that they need to do, and make you, while also making you care for the characters and care, why is Sonic doing this exactly? Why do I care if Sonic does this? You know, it's that kind of thing. And I think The Last of Us not having to do that narrative groundwork to be like, okay, so what's the story here? What are Joel and Ellie's goals? What are their motivations? What are all of that? Because the base game's narrative was so good, does help us a little bit. And I think that's one of the things that's really getting lost for me. Because people are saying a lot, oh, this is the best adaptation of a video game. And it's like, well, the video game is one of the best narrative video games ever made, if not the best. So to sit here and be like, the game is, 100%, I think the game has to shoulder a lot of that, because at the end of the day, they created a product already that is so put together and so well made that they don't really need to worry about having to cover all of that other stuff that every other movie and TV show has to. And I think that's something else. And look, I understand there are some things that are adapted that aren't good, not just in video games, but I think video games have gotten the bad rap because they, up until recently, video game narratives haven't been the best, so you have to spend a lot of time fleshing out everything in a way that you don't have to for The Last of Us. And I think that's the big key difference between The Last of Us and, say, any other video game that came before this. Video game, movie, or TV show. So it'll be interesting to see how other things learn from this. I think that's the big thing we're looking at now. I mean, I know we're getting off topic from The Last of Us, but we're seeing this big rush in the same way in the mid 2010s. We saw this gold rush, quote unquote, trying to buy comics IP. We're seeing that now with video games, with the success of Sonic, with the success of Detective Pikachu, with the success of The Last of Us. We're seeing this gold rush for everyone to go out and try and acquire these big key IPs, and try to develop them into. And I think that, like, similarly, when they do God of War on Amazon Prime, we're going to be in a similar situation where it's like we have plenty of, story to build on. We have a lot to go with. We don't need to sit here and really workshop and develop out anything. It's all done for us already. All we have to do is cast well and do a screen adaptation, which is going to, cut down the amount of work. You don't have to break story in the way that you do for something else. And as we see more narrative-driven products adapted, we're going to obviously see the quality go up, because then what it becomes is not a ground-up build of something in the same way that other ones were, like the Mortal Kombat movies and I think Left 4 Dead had a movie and things like that. Like, we're not looking at a full build-up of narrative. We're looking at taking the narrative, readapting it for a different medium, and then taking that and putting it into putting it into into action with good casting and all of that. That's the interesting thing. So what else was there with this? I mean, the show is great. I really like. I think that one of my only things is that if Ellie's supposed to be 14, I think that she's playing it a little young. But also that could just be she is she feels safe or something in a way she didn't before. So like her running around the hotel pretending to be a guest. I'm like, not really the time to do this. All things considered. But yeah, I think Tessa's sacrifice is great. And the way she handles it is great. Like that whole scene is fantastic, and I think that's I'm happy that they had her sacrifice herself instead of being turning. Cause I was like, oh, they're not gonna make her turn, are they? To one of the clickers, but no, thankfully they didn't do that. So yeah, so there's all of that. And then there is, hang on. The clicker designs are great. They have a level of, they have a level of, like, you know, scariness to them, for lack of a better word, that the walkers in The Walking Dead don't have. And they do it very well. Like, they look scary, they move quickly, even if the virus on this show does remind me a little bit of the one from The Crazies, with was that mid-2000s movie with Danielle Panabaker. Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of that, but whatever. I don't know. It's an interesting kind of, what's I want for here? It's an interesting show. I'm really enjoying it. It's probably the show I'm enjoying the most out of everything that's currently on that I'm watching. I have not finished That 90s Show yet. I'm still only 5 episodes in. And that episode went up yesterday. If I finish that next weekend, because I have a ton of shorts to watch. But I think we'll wrap up there for today, because it is we're at a 15-minute mark. I'm almost at work, even though I'm stuck behind this train that's allegedly coming through at some point between now and the end of the universe. Oh well. So for the rest of the week, we have me and Josie could not get together for a episode of Exploring Hyperspace Lanes this week. So what I did was I took an episode of 30-minute reviews that we recorded in 2016 about The Force Awakens with the two of us. And this is a very early episode that we started in 2015. This is a very early episode of the podcast that we did when we talked about The Force Awakens. This is after it came out in theaters. I think it was still in theaters. Alright, motherfucker. I think it was still in theaters when we recorded this episode, so I took that, put a little intro before it, and that'll be this week's episode. The same goes for 30-minute reviews, which went up this morning. Me and Peter couldn't get together this weekend like we were going to, and we did there's no one on this fucking train coming out of East. Makes sense though, it's rush hour, everyone's going the other way. We were talking, like, we talked about, what's the word I'm looking for? We were going to talk about Sing Street, because John Carney has his new movie debuting at Sundance, and, I had to cancel because I had something come up this weekend. So, yeah, after that, I guess took an episode from, 30-minute reviews, about John Wick, or an old beware of spoilers, about John Wick Chapter 2, and threw that up. So we have something for this week. What else do we have? This week we have If Anything Happens. Oh no, not If Anything Happens. That was a rough one to watch. School Shooting. That won Best Animated Short a few years ago. This was what was it? Sometimes I Think About Dying. Will be up on Beware of Spoilers tomorrow morning, probably. What's the other one we have? We have that. We have, sometimes you should really have an app for the phone so I can watch, like, you can watch it easier. Or like an app on your Xbox, something like that. So I don't have to go in, like, I don't have to, like, hook my laptop up to my computer, to my TV to, to watch it. I forgot my headphones. That we have, there's something else that we had, Academy Award nominations tomorrow evening. I'll be recording that for 30-minute reviews. If you want to hear my thoughts on the Academy Award nominations, you can hop on over to 30-minute reviews. If you go to 30minutereviews.com, that's spelled out THIRTY, minutereviews.com, you'll find the link for it. That's where I'll put up the episode about the Academy Award nominations for 2023. And then there is, what's it called? What was the other one? I forgot what it was. We're going to do a short showcase at the end of the week. We're going to talk about my favorite 5 shorts out of Sundance. I bought the Explorer Pass, so I can watch all the shorts on Sundance. They come out of Sundance this year. Also, this week there's Women Talking this weekend. I'll be seeing that. And I thought there's another movie. Maybe there isn't. I'll eventually see Missing. Maybe when it goes to VOD. Yeah, it's been a busy week last week. So yeah, I think that's everything that we have coming up. But until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.